The woman who fired me at 8 a.m. was begging me for a meeting by 1 p.m., and I let it go to voicemail. Before we dive into this satisfying disaster, make sure to smash subscribe because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. Let me take you back to the beginning. I'd been up since 5:30 that morning, not because I'm one of those hustle culture alarm clock people, but because my dog knocked a glass of water off the nightstand and onto my face. So I was already running on chaos energy when I pulled into the parking garage at TerraSign Technologies at 7:42 a.m., 18 minutes early. Like always, the garage was quiet, too quiet. Usually by 7:45, you could hear at least two account managers arguing about parking spots and someone from engineering blasting a podcast about cryptocurrency through their car speakers. But that morning, it was funeral home silent. The kind of silence that crawls under your skin and whispers something's wrong and you should probably check your email. I checked my email. One new message. From Diane Pruitt, VP of Human Resources. Subject line, brief meeting, 8 a.m., executive suite. No body text, no context, no, hope you're having a great morning fluff. Just a time, a place, and the digital equivalent of a loaded weapon pointed at my career. Now, a normal person might panic. A normal person might call a friend, rehearse a speech, maybe cry in the car for a few minutes. But I'm not a normal person. I'm a woman who spent 9 years turning a sinking product division into the company's most reliable revenue engine. I personally closed the Meridian account, $18 million dollars over 4 years, on a Tuesday afternoon while recovering from food poisoning. I built the client pipeline from a whiteboard doodle into a system so efficient that the CFO once called it the only thing in this company that works without supervision. So, no, I didn't cry. I opened my glove compartment and pulled out a manila folder I'd been keeping there for exactly this occasion. Labeled it myself in blue ink 6 months ago. Two words: insurance policy. Let me explain why that folder existed. Over the past 3 years, I'd watched TerraSign fire 3 senior executives. Same playbook every time. So, a smiling meeting, vague restructuring language, standard severance, and then the hammer. A non compete clause that locked them out of the industry for 2 years while the company absorbed their client relationships and moved on like nothing happened. I watched Janet from Enterprise Sales get walked out on a Tuesday and spend the next 18 months doing consulting for a pet food company because her non compete barred her from touching anything in tech. I watched Robert from Strategy get terminated after closing a 9 figure pipeline, then sit on his hands for 2 years while they reaped everything he'd built. 3 times I watched it happen. The third time, I called an attorney. Her name was Grace. She wore reading glasses on a chain and had the legal precision of a brain surgeon with a grudge. I told her what I'd seen. She told me what to do during my last contract renewal, the one where TerraSign was desperate to keep me because I'd just landed Meridian and 2 other major accounts. Grace helped me rewrite the restrictive covenants section. Not just the non-compete, the entire package. Non-compete, non-solicitation, intellectual property assignment, confidentiality, all of it. The key change was buried in Section 7, Clause D, a termination trigger. Grace wrote it in clean, surgical legalese that said, all restrictive covenants contained in this agreement, including but not limited to non-competition and non-solicitation provisions, shall be rendered null and void in the event of involuntary termination without documented cause. One clause. One sentence. It voided everything. The non-compete, the non-solicitation, all of it. If they fired me without a paper trail of performance issues. Now, here's the part that matters. The general counsel at the time, a sharp, careful man named Phil, actually flagged it. He sent an internal memo to Greg Faulkner, the CEO, warning him that the clause created significant exposure. Phil recommended they either reject the language or document a clear performance record for every senior executive going forward. So they'd always have cause if they needed it. Greg ignored the memo. Wrote back 2 words. Just sign. Phil signed under protest. So did Diane from HR. So did Greg himself. I watched them do it over coffee and danishes in the boardroom, smiling politely while they sealed their own fate with blue ballpoint ink. Phil caught my eye across the table. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. We both knew what had just happened. That was 11 months ago. And now, standing in the parking garage holding a manila folder with their signatures inside, I felt the weight of those 11 months settle into my spine like a steel rod. I tucked the folder under my arm, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the elevators. My heels clicked against the concrete in steady, measured rhythm. Not fast, not slow. The tempo of a woman who knows what's coming and already has the answer key. The executive suite was on the 6th floor. When the elevator doors opened, I could smell it immediately. That particular cocktail of fresh printer toner and existential dread. Diane was standing outside the glass conference room in a blazer so stiff it looked like it had been ironed onto her body. Next to her stood Greg, the CEO. He was holding a coffee mug that said, "World's Best Leader," which was ironic because he once asked me what a conversion rate was during a board meeting. "Natalie," Diane said, smiling the way dentists smile before they tell you about the root canal. "Thanks for coming up so quickly." "Of course," I said. Always happy to start the day with a mystery meeting. Nobody laughed. Greg gestured toward the conference room. Inside, the blinds were drawn. A single sheet of paper sat on the table like a white flag at a surrender. I sat down. Diane sat across from me. Greg stood, a classic power move, meant to make you feel small. It might have worked on someone who hadn't spent 9 years making him look competent in front of investors. "So," Diane began, folding her hands the way therapists do when they're about to deliver bad news. "We've been doing some internal evaluation, and we've made the difficult decision to restructure several senior leadership roles." "Restructure," I repeated. "Flat. Neutral. Your position is being eliminated," Greg added, like he was reading from a teleprompter someone else wrote. "Effective immediately. We appreciate everything you've contributed. Yong, but the company is moving in a new direction." A new direction. I wanted to laugh. The only direction that company moved was whichever way I pushed it. "We've prepared a standard severance," Diane said, sliding the paper forward. 2 months' salary, benefits through the end of the quarter, and of course, we ask that you sign the separation agreement, which includes acknowledgement of your restrictive covenants." I looked at the paper. I didn't touch it. "Documented cause?" I asked. Diane blinked. "Excuse me? You're terminating me. What's the documented cause?" Greg shifted his weight. "It's a restructuring, Natalie. It's not personal." "That's not what I asked. I asked if there's documented cause, a performance issue, a disciplinary record, a single written warning in my 9-year tenure at this company." The silence that followed was so thick you could have spread it on toast. Diane cleared her throat. "There is no documented cause. This is a business decision." "Thank you," I said. That's all I needed to hear. I stood up. Didn't sign the paper. Didn't touch the severance offer. Didn't raise my voice, slam the table, or give them the satisfaction of a single emotional crack. I just smoothed my jacket, picked up my manila folder, and said, "You'll be hearing from me." Greg's face shifted, just slightly, that micro expression between confusion and alarm. The look of a man who expected a lamb and just realized he was staring at a wolf. "Natalie, I'd strongly recommend you review your restrictive covenants before making any rash decisions," Diane called after me. I stopped in the doorway and turned. Smiled the way a poker player smiles when they're holding the winning hand. "Oh, I've reviewed them, Diane. I helped rewrite them. You might want to pull up Phil's memo from last March, the one where he warned Greg this exact thing would happen." Both of their faces went blank. They didn't remember the memo. Of course they didn't. They never read anything Phil sent them. I walked out. Down the hall, past the motivational posters about teamwork and synergy that nobody believed, or past my office where 9 years of work sat in desk drawers and hard drives they'd probably wipe by lunch. I didn't stop to collect anything, didn't grab photos or coffee mugs or the little cactus my assistant gave me last Christmas. I left it all because I wasn't taking memories. I was taking momentum. I got into my car, engine on, air conditioning blasting, and then I called Grace. They did it, I said. No documented cause. Diane confirmed it on the record. Grace let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. Then the restrictive covenants are void, all of them. Non-compete, non-solicitation, the works. Their own general counsel warned them. And they signed anyway. I need you to prepare a formal legal opinion, I said. Something I can send to anyone who questions whether I'm free to operate. I want it airtight. I'll have it to you by end of day. And Natalie, don't reach out to any clients or employees. Not yet. Not until I've got the documentation locked down. Let them come to you. That's the plan, I said. I don't think I'll have to wait long. She was right. I didn't. See, here's the thing about the tech industry. News travels faster than light and with twice the heat. By 9:30 a.m., the rumor was everywhere. I didn't post anything, didn't send a single message, but someone inside Terracine leaked it. Probably one of the 6 people who watched me get escorted past their desks with a manila folder and a look that said, "You'll understand soon." My personal phone rang at 9:47. Tom, head of operations at a logistics company I'd brought to Terracine 3 years ago. Not through a client database or a CRM system, through a genuine relationship built over conference dinners and late-night strategy calls. He had my personal number because we'd become friends, real friends, not LinkedIn connection friends. "Natalie, tell me this isn't true," he said. "It's true. They restructured me out this morning. That's the dumbest thing I've heard this quarter." And I sit through earnings calls. You are the reason we signed with them. What are you going to do?" "I'm figuring that out right now." "Well, figure fast," he said. "Because if you hang your own shingle, I want to be your first call." I didn't ask him to leave Terracine. I didn't pitch him anything. He volunteered, unprompted. Because loyalty isn't a contract clause. It's a relationship, and relationships follow people, not logos. By 10:15, 2 more clients had called. Same story. Heard the news, couldn't believe it, wanted to know what was next. One of them, Rachel, head of procurement at a manufacturing firm, said something that stuck with me. "Natalie, I don't do business with companies. I do business with people. And the person I trusted just got fired. I didn't make promises. Not yet. Grace told me to wait, and I trusted her. But I wrote down every name, every call, every voicemail. A record of demand I hadn't created, just inherited. Because that's what 9 years of actually caring about your clients gets you. Not a golden parachute, something better. A safety net made of people. By 11 a.m., I was at my kitchen table with my laptop. Filed the LLC paperwork online. Company name, Vantage Point Solutions. Clean, sharp, deliberate. Domain registered. Temporary email set up. Grace's legal opinion arrived at 11:40. 7 pages, annotated, citing the signed agreement, Phil's internal memo, and the specific voiding language in Section 7D. At 11:55 a.m., I made one more call. No, to a woman named Cheryl who ran a commercial real estate brokerage downtown. I'd helped her company with a vendor issue 2 years ago. Off the clock, no charge, just because she asked and I knew the answer. She remembered. "I need office space," I said. "Small, flexible lease, something I can grow into." "How fast?" "Yesterday." She laughed. "I've got a corner unit on 7th, month to month. You can move in Friday." By noon, Vantage Point Solutions existed. Legally registered, legally cleared, with a founder who had 9 years of industry relationships and a growing list of clients who'd already raised their hands. I wasn't their biggest competitor yet. Not by revenue, not by headcount, not by any metric that matters on a spreadsheet. But I was something worse. I was a credible alternative run by the person their clients actually trusted. And in this industry, that's how empires start to crack. What happens next will turn this morning upside down, expose every crack in their foundation, and prove that sometimes the person they take for granted is the only thing holding it all together. Stay tuned. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. At 12:04 p.m., I sent one email to Greg Faulkner's direct inbox. Subject: Professional Update. Body: Greg, I wanted to extend a professional courtesy and let you know that I've formed a new consulting practice. I wish TerraSign all the best in its restructuring. Warm regards, Natalie. No threats, no barbs, no passive aggressive digs. Just a clean, polite notification that the woman they discarded 4 hours ago was now standing upright, legally free, and open for business. The first call from Terracine came at 12:11 p.m., not from Greg, from Diane. Natalie, this is extremely inappropriate. You are bound by restrictive covenants, and any attempt to compete or solicit our clients will be met with immediate legal action. Diane, I said, leaning back in my kitchen chair, I'd encourage you to read Section 7, Clause D, the amendment from last March, the one you, Greg, and Phil all signed. And while you're at it, let's pull up Phil's memo, the one where he told Greg this clause would void all restrictive covenants if you terminated me without cause. A pause. I could hear her breathing quicken. Then the sound of frantic typing. I don't remember this language, she stammered. Your initials are on page 9, time-stamped and notarized. I need to call legal. You should. And Diane, you might want to check whether Phil is still taking calls. I hear he's been updating his resume since March. She hung up. I poured myself a glass of water and looked out the kitchen window at the trees in my backyard. A cardinal was sitting on the fence, unbothered by everything. I envied that bird. The next 6 weeks were chaos on their end, and controlled demolition on mine. TerraSign's outside legal team sent a cease and desist within 48 hours. Grace responded with a 12-page rebuttal that included the signed agreement, Phil's internal memo warning against the termination, a timeline showing zero performance documentation in 9 years, and a polite but devastating closing paragraph. Our client has not solicited any of Terracine's clients or employees. Any inquiries she has received have been unsolicited and initiated by the other parties. We trust this resolves the matter. They never sent another letter, but the real damage wasn't legal. It was gravitational. When you remove the person at the center of an ecosystem, once the ecosystem doesn't just pause, it starts to drift. TerraSign assigned a new account manager to the Meridian contract within a week. His name was Derek. He was 28, enthusiastic, and had the industry experience of a golden retriever. He called Tom to introduce himself. Tom called me afterward. Natalie, this kid asked me to explain our own supply chain to him. Our supply chain. The one you designed. Be patient with him, I said. He's just doing his job. I am being patient, but patience has a price tag, and right now that tag says $18 million. I didn't push. I didn't have to. So Tom's procurement team began the contract review process on their own, a standard vendor assessment triggered by material change in account management, which was corporate language for the person we trusted is gone and the replacement doesn't know what HVAC stands for. That review took 5 weeks. Procurement, legal, compliance, board approval, the full gauntlet. It wasn't fast. It wasn't dramatic. It was bureaucratic, grinding, and inevitable. Like watching a glacier carve through a mountain. You don't see it move, but you see the damage when it's done. Rachel's company started the same process 2 weeks later. Same trigger, new account manager, same concerns, same slow motion evaluation. Corporate contracts don't jump ship overnight. They migrate, like tectonic plates. And the company sitting on top doesn't feel the earthquake until the floor drops out. Meanwhile, the internal bleeding at TerraSign was accelerating. And I had nothing to do with it. Phil, The general counsel resigned 3 weeks after my termination, quietly, professionally, with a 2 week notice and a letter that reportedly included the sentence. I advised against this course of action in writing and was overruled. I will not defend decisions I opposed on the record. Greg apparently read it, balled it up, and threw it at his office window. The window survived. His credibility didn't. After Phil left, the atmosphere inside TerraSign shifted. The people I'd mentored over the years, engineers, strategists, project leads, they didn't need me to recruit them. They watched the chaos unfold and drew their own conclusions. When your general counsel quits over a wrongful termination and your biggest clients start requesting vendor reviews, smart people read the room. Kevin, my former lead product engineer, was the first to reach out. Not because I called him, I hadn't spoken to a single TerraSign employee since the day I left. He found my new company website and sent a message through the contact form like a stranger. "I've been watching this slow-motion disaster from the inside," he wrote. Greg took credit for my system redesign again in the last board meeting. Phil's gone. Derek just asked me how the Meridian integration works, and when I tried to explain it, he took notes on his phone. His phone? "Natalie, I'm done. If you're hiring, I'm available. If you're not hiring yet, I'll wait." I called Grace first, asked her to review Kevin's employment agreement, his own non-compete, his notice period requirements, everything. She confirmed he had a standard 90-day non-compete, but it only covered direct competitors of the same size and market segment. Vantage Point was a 3-person consulting firm. It didn't qualify. Kevin gave his 2 weeks' notice, served every day of it, handed over documentation, transitioned his projects, shook hands on the way out, professional to the end. He started at Vantage Point on a Monday morning, at a salary 15% lower than what TerraSign paid him. Because he said, and this still gets me, "I'd rather build something real for less than maintain something fake for more." Over the next 2 months, 4 more people followed. Not all at once, not in some coordinated exodus. One by one, each on their own timeline, each after serving proper notice, each after confirming their own legal freedom to move. Priya from analytics, Marcus from client relations, Jenna from onboarding, and finally, Dan from IT, who sent Greg a resignation email with a single line, "I'm going somewhere that reads the memos." None of them needed to be poached. The company was doing my recruiting for me. One bad decision at a time. TerraSign's board finally woke up around month 2. I know this because the trade press started publishing stories with headlines like "TerraSign Technologies faces client attrition amid leadership shakeup," and "Mid-market tech firm loses key accounts following executive departure." Nobody named me directly, they didn't have to. The math told the story. Tom's contract officially transferred to Vantage Point at the end of week 7, after a full procurement review, legal sign-off, and board approval on his end. Rachel's followed 3 weeks later. A third client, one I hadn't even spoken to, reached out through a mutual contact at an industry conference. "We heard what happened," their VP of operations told me. "We were honestly thinking about leaving TerraSign before you got fired. Yeah, this just made the decision easier." By the end of month 3, Vantage Point Solutions had absorbed $12 million in annual contract value from TerraSign. Not overnight, not through theft or sabotage or shady back-channel deals, through the slow, grinding, utterly predictable process of clients choosing the person they trusted over the company that lost its way. TerraSign's board convened an emergency session. I know because the trade press covered it. The agenda, according to a leaked summary, included 3 items: client retention crisis, leadership accountability review, and CEO performance evaluation. Translation: Greg was cooked. He didn't call me himself. He wasn't that reckless. Or maybe his new outside counsel had finally put a leash on him. Instead, TerraSign's board chair reached out through an intermediary, a retired executive named Howard, who sat on 3 boards and spoke exclusively in golf metaphors. "Natalie," Howard said over the phone, his voice carrying the practiced warmth of a man who delivered bad news over lobster dinners for 4 decades. The board would like to explore whether there's a mutually beneficial arrangement, some sort of strategic partnership, subcontracting framework, something that stabilizes the client base for both sides. Howard, with respect, I said, the clients aren't unstable. They're exactly where they want to be. The instability is on your end. A long pause. I could hear ice clinking in a glass. Fair point, he said quietly. Tell the board I'm not interested in a partnership with Terracine, but I'll send them something that might help, free of charge. What's that? Phil's memo, the one from last March, the one where their own general counsel told Greg exactly what would happen if they fired me without cause. They should read it. All of it, this time. Howard let out a slow exhale. I suspect they've read it by now. Then they know this didn't have to happen. I hung up. Didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel smug. Felt something quieter. The bone-deep satisfaction of being proven right after years of being taken for granted. 5 weeks later, Greg Faulkner was removed as CEO by a 7-1 board vote. The lone holdout was his college roommate. Diane resigned the same afternoon to pursue new opportunities, according to the press release, which is corporate language for pushed off a cliff with a parachute made of excuses. Terracine limped along for another 6 months under interim leadership before a private equity firm acquired them at a steep discount, gutted the executive layer, and restructured the operation into a shadow of what it used to be. The building where I spent 9 years, the one with the squeaky elevator and the espresso bar Greg installed instead of approving raises, got leased to a co-working company. I drove past it once, saw a yoga studio in the lobby where his corner office used to be. Felt about right. Vantage Point, meanwhile, was growing. Not explosively, not recklessly, deliberately. 12 employees by month 4, 19 by month 7, revenue projections that made venture capitalists send unsolicited emails with subject lines like coffee, which in VC language means, please let us give you money before someone else does. I didn't take their money, not yet. I wanted to build it clean. On relationships, on trust, on the thing Terracine forgot mattered. Kevin became my CTO. Priya ran analytics. Marcus handled client relations with the warmth and precision of a man who finally felt valued. Jenna built an onboarding system so smooth that a new client once described it as suspiciously pleasant. We weren't just a company. We were proof that competence has a shelf life only if you let someone else control the expiration date. One evening, about 5 months after launch, I was alone in the office. The real office, the corner unit on 7th Street, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of downtown that reminded me every morning why I left corporate life and built my own. Everyone else had gone home. The city lights were doing that thing where they turn every window into a mirror and every street into a runway. I sat at my desk, in my company, with my name on the door, and opened the manila folder one last time. The employment agreement, Section 7, Clause D. The sentence Grace wrote that changed everything. All restrictive covenants contained in this agreement shall be rendered null and void in the event of involuntary termination without documented cause. 27 words, that's all it took. 27 words, buried in 9 pages of legalese, flagged by the company's own general counsel, and signed anyway by a CEO who couldn't be bothered to read what he was agreeing to. I closed the folder, slid it into the bottom drawer of my desk, and locked it. Not because I needed it anymore, because it was a reminder that preparation isn't paranoia, it's self-respect, that knowing your worth means protecting it in writing, and that the people who underestimate you are the same ones who hand you the keys to their downfall and then blame you when you use them. They fired me at 8 a.m. By noon, I had the LLC filed, the attorney retained, and a phone full of clients who called me, not the other way around. It took months to build what came next. Real months with real paperwork and real patience. But the foundation was poured in those first 4 hours, and it was poured with something no amount of restructuring could replicate: trust. The kind you can't fire, the kind you can't restructure, the kind that follows a person out the door and never looks back. They kept the espresso machine. I kept the clients, the talent, and the last laugh. And that, if you ask me, is the best severance package in history. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and click the video on your screen right now for another satisfying tale you won't want to miss. We'll see you in the next one.